Hey guys, welcome back to another video. This is Troy with Cichlid Bros. In today's video, we are focusing on a very popular fish, especially for beginners in the hobby, and that is the Blood Parrot Cichlid. We're going to walk through all the details of this fish and how to properly care for them, so let's dive right in. So the first thing to know about the Blood Parrot Cichlid is that it is a hybrid fish. It is man-made. It was made in Taiwan in the 1980s, and it is not naturally found in the wild. And because of that hybridization, it does have what some would call deformities, but other people find endearing. The first thing you'll notice about the blood parrot is the bright colors and that face that kind of points out like a beak, with the head being concave and the mouth kind of peeking out like a bird or a parrot. And because they are a hybrid fish, some aquarists don't like that they're not a pure species and would never buy or keep them. But they are so commonly found, especially in your big box stores like PetSmart and Petco, that we wanted to make a full care guide in case you are keeping the blood parrot or you are a hobbyist that does enjoy keeping blood parrots. I also wanted to make this video because there's a lot of conflicting information out there when it comes to videos and blogs and just care requirements for the blood parrot, so we're going to dive deeper into that now. The typical blood parrot you'll see at a fish store is usually only going to be a couple inches in length, and it's either going to be kind of pale orange or pale red, but as they mature they will definitely brighten up in color. They'll either become darker orange or darker red. Also, as juveniles they'll usually have some black markings or spotting, but they will eventually grow out of that and be much more of a solid color base, unless you get one of the color variations that there are out there, and there are many, including the yellow and white or the red and white base parrot cichlids that you'll see here. I saw this at Predatory Fins. These types of blood parrots have some really good color to them, and as you can see they do get fairly large. One of the most common variations of the blood parrot is called the polar parrot, and that usually looks like a small blood parrot cichlid that is mixed with a convict cichlid. Usually has some gray coloration and maybe vertical bars, so it kind of looks like a more round version of a convict. But when it comes to the blood parrot, they'll likely be that orange or red color, and they'll be much bigger than the polar parrots. And there's variations of the blood parrot called the King Kong parrots or the red mammons. They get really big and have more of a nuchal hump, and if you're keeping those, they have an even larger tank size requirement than the normal blood parrot. To make matters even more confusing, there is a true parrot cichlid, which is a South American cichlid that has no relation at all. It does not look like the blood parrot at all. I actually love the true parrot. I've kept them in the past. They get much bigger and they look amazing with different color patterns, but we are talking about blood parrot specifically. And when it comes to that hybridization, people don't know for sure where blood parrots came from. It was likely a cross between a red devil or a Midas cichlid with a Vieja cichlid, or even a Severum potentially. I think the Severum kind of makes sense because of that pointed mouth, but because of that hybridization and the cross between those species, it does have some of those deformities or just unique look to them, which some aquarists will absolutely love, some will absolutely hate. One hybrid cichlid that I really like is the flower horn. It has that really big nuchal hump, and it is also a hybrid. Some people will absolutely love them, and some people will absolutely hate them because they're hybrids. I really like flower horns, and personally, I'm not a huge fan of the blood parrot, but I still wanted to provide some really good information to you because we get asked about them all the time. Another reason people really love blood parrots is that they are personable, smart fish. They definitely get to know their owner. Just like some of those mid to large size cichlids, they seem very eager for food, and it's just a really cool pet fish to have. They also aren't super aggressive because they have more of that pointed mouth. It's too small to even really do damage to others. You can keep them with a wide variety of fish that we'll get to later on. But the blood parrot does get fairly large. The females top out about 6 to 7 inches, where the male can get maybe 8 inches. So you do need a pretty decent sized aquarium. One of the conflicting bits of information out there is the tank size. Some people will say a 30-gallon minimum, and I would recommend either a 40, but hopefully a 55-gallon tank as a minimum. Just knowing their max size as adults, a 55-gallon tank or larger would definitely provide a better home for your blood parrot. You could probably get by with a 30-gallon or one of those smaller tank sizes if you just have one blood parrot and you're just growing it up for the first year, but I would recommend upgrading in the future, especially if you do get tank mates. Blood parrots are also a pretty good beginner cichlid because they can't really do that damage like I mentioned when it comes to aggression, and they are pretty hardy fish. They can withstand a wide variety of water parameters. I always recommend keeping things as consistent as possible, but if you're looking for the ideal water parameters, I would recommend your pH anywhere between 6.5 and 8, your water hardness to be moderate, and your temperature anywhere from 76 to 83 degrees Fahrenheit. I think that 80 degrees Fahrenheit range is the sweet spot for them, where it's not too warm or not too cold, where they'll be just a little more lethargic. And just like any other cichlid out there, you'll want to maintain a cycled aquarium, so that means no ammonia, no nitrite, and trying to keep those nitrates below 40 parts per million, either through doing water changes to reduce those nitrates and or having live plants in your aquarium to help reduce those nitrates as well. One good thing about the blood parrot is they do pretty well with most live plants. They might dig around the substrate a little bit and kind of uproot some plants, but if you do things like Java fern, Anubias, hornwort, or floating plants, they will usually leave those alone, and you can have a decent amount of plants in your aquarium with a blood parrot, which I think looks great if you have that green color from the plants mixed with the bright red or bright orange from the blood parrot. And then when it comes to the tank setup for the blood parrot, like I said, a 55-gallon tank is my minimum recommendation, but I would also set up that tank with maybe sand, driftwood, rocks, live plants, plenty of hiding places for the blood parrot. They do like to hide out, but if they have those extra hiding places, I've found that they come out of hiding even more because they are comfortable in their tank. They have somewhere to retreat back to. So just make sure you have plenty of decor in the tank and they should be just fine. You can go with gravel, but they do dig around in the substrate quite a bit. So I found that sand was actually better for them and it wouldn't damage their mouth or gills. So getting into the fun part is what tank mates can you keep with your blood parrot? Well, they have a wide range of possible tank mates because, like I said, they can't do much damage with that small mouth and they're very tolerant to a wide range of water parameters. So you can keep them with a lot of different cichlids, a lot of Central American cichlids like Jack Dempsey's, Firemouse, convicts. And then when it comes to South American cichlids, things like your Severum would be an awesome tank mate. Electric Blue Acara, providing that pop of blue right next to the pop of red from the blood parrot, I think looks phenomenal. Geophagus species would also do really well. Walrus cichlids I'm sure would do great with the blood parrot. Even something like an Oscar. Some of the bigger cichlids that are really aggressive you would want to stay away from, but most times I think they go well with an Oscar as long as that tank size is bigger. Anytime you're keeping that blood parrot with tank mates like these, you would want to expand above that minimum tank size that I mentioned. But some non-cichlids that I could definitely work well with are many types of plecos, like bristlenose plecos, and if you have a very large tank, common plecos, but there are a lot of exotic ones that you could also go with. If you have a very large tank, they could go with tinfoil barbs and bala sharks. They could definitely go with something like denizen barbs that provide a lot of good activity. Colombian tetras, Congo tetras, any of those medium to large size tetras would be perfect for them, and they would be perfect with scavengers at the bottom like other catfish, clown loaches, corydoras probably would work. Anything that's big enough that it won't fit in the blood parrot's mouth should be fine to keep with the blood parrot. Just monitor any types of aggression and be able to act if your blood parrot is a little more aggressive than the norm. And when it comes to feeding the blood parrot cichlid, they are definitely not picky eaters. I would just recommend a varied diet that's higher in protein. So I would mix in things like krill flakes, spirulina flakes. Some of your smaller size pellets, either floating or sinking pellets, would be great, remembering that they do have a small mouth. So if you have pellets that are too big, they may not be able to eat them at all. I also would recommend mixing in some frozen foods like brine shrimp or blood worms every once in a while. I think that's a really good treat and high in protein for the blood parrot. Also, sometimes because of their mouth, it is difficult for them to reach food at the top of the tank, so if you're having that issue, maybe switch over to sinking pellets and you'll likely have more success. And then when it comes to breeding blood parrot cichlids, it's likely not going to happen because males are infertile most of the time. You may have a female that lays eggs, but it's very rare to have a pair and have the male successfully fertilize those eggs. Most of the time you're just not going to have success there, so breeding them is likely not going to be happening. Also, it is really difficult to tell the difference between males and females. They will pretty much look exactly the same. Females might just stay a little bit smaller and get a little more round, but again, it's really difficult to tell just from purely looking at them. But with all that being said, the blood parrot definitely stands out in an aquarium as a very unique look. some really bright color. It's very hardy and personable. It just depends on if you like that look of the hybrid fish, of those deformities that some people might find endearing, whereas some people would not like them. Like I said, they're not one of my personal favorite cichlids, but I do see why some people would love keeping them, and if that's you, hopefully this information in the video today was helpful and you can keep your blood parrot happy and healthy for the long term. If you have any questions on how to keep the blood parrot cichlid, make sure to leave those down in the comment section below. I'll also leave links to the food that I mentioned, which I would definitely recommend. Thanks again for watching, guys, and we'll see you next time.